Hey everybody, it's Anna and welcome back to my BookTube channel. As I'm filming this, I have recently got back from PAX West, which is a video game convention that happens over Labor Day weekend every year here in Seattle, and I had a really incredible time at the con. I love going to conventions. I love getting to meet new people that are just as excited about geeky stuff as I am, whether it's video games or tabletop RPGs, comic books, you name it. I just like being around all of that really positive energy of people that are excited about really cool things. And it was making me think that I wanted to make a video about how to get the most out of your convention experience, but I wanted to make a sensory-friendly edition because if, like myself, you are on the autism spectrum or you deal with any other, mental health or other issues that could make going to a convention challenging, I wanted to make a video that would be kind of like a pro tip survival guide thing for how to get the most out of a con when you have sensory issues or sensory processing issues. So I think that this would be useful if you are, like myself, autistic. I also have anxiety, and I know that a lot of folks that do attend conventions have anxiety. So I think that this is applicable across if you have ADHD or basically any other thing going on that could make it easily overwhelming for you to be around so much sensory input. So I've put together a list of things that I think will help you get the most out of a convention, and I wanted to just say really quickly, I'm gonna define a couple words here because I don't want it to be confusing, but a convention or a con is usually some sort of organized meetup of people that are fans of a particular property or hobby or something like that. So there are board game conventions, there are Doctor Who conventions, there are conventions that center almost entirely around cosplay, which is another word that I wanted to define. So cosplay is when you build or make or buy your own costume to dress up as a character from a movie, TV show, book, or something like that. So for instance, when I went to PAX this year, I went in cosplay one day as the character Jester from Critical Role. I will see if I can insert pictures here. If not, I'll definitely be posting them over on Instagram, so you should check that out because I'm really proud of how that turned out. And then the other thing that I just wanted to define is special interest. This is something that those of us who are autistic use to describe a very deep, passionate interest in a particular subject. A special interest can be in pretty much anything. I know that over my life, I've had special interests ranging from ancient Egypt to the architecture of Gothic cathedrals to RPGs, role-playing games in general, and Dungeons and Dragons more specifically. A special interest can be anything, but one of the reasons why I like going to conventions so much is because it's a great opportunity to let my special interest flag fly. Talking of that, I remember a couple of years ago, I met this girl at Emerald City Comic Con here in Seattle who described conventions as special interest heaven, but sensory hell. And I couldn't think of a better way to describe them because I'm so happy to be around the subjects that I'm passionate about. I'm excited to get to try new things and geek out with other people that are at the convention. But at the same time, it's pretty easy for me to get overwhelmed by all of the loud noises, the physical interaction of having people bumping into you in the aisles, the smells, the flashing lights, especially at PAX. Flashing lights is something that can really mess with my brain for the... Let's go ahead and get into what can make your convention experience more sensory friendly. So the first thing that I would recommend is that you research the con accessibility policy. For this, mileage may vary. Most conventions will at least have the bare minimum. The building is ADA accessible. There are wheelchair ramps or ways for folks that have mobility needs to get around, like elevators, etc. Most of them do offer some type of medical pass as well if you need to, not be standing for long amounts of time waiting in line for things. You can usually apply for some type of... Whoops, my notes are disappearing off of my computer. You can apply for some type of medical pass so that you can wait in a special line. This is usually also where you'll find information if you need an interpreter, like a sign language interpreter or captions or something like that. Most cons will have a very bare bones accessibility policy. Some cons really do an amazing job with going above and beyond the legal minimum requirement for accessibility. Many cons nowadays also have a quiet room, an AFK room, whatever you want to call it. That's a room that is dedicated to allowing people to just take a break from the convention floor and decompress. And it is usually specifically created with autistic and neurodivergent folks in mind. I think one con that did accessibility, at least for me, really well, because I don't have, mobility needs or interpreter needs or anything like that. But I went to a local board game convention called OrcaCon. It's a pretty small convention. It happens just at a local small hotel every year. And they did something that I think was taken from an autistic self-advocacy conference, where we had these different colored clothespins that we could put on our lanyards or name tags that were indicative of whether we would be open to talking to people that day or not. So you could put a green clothespin if you were totally fine with talking to strangers and having random people approach you. You could put a yellow clothespin as a please ask first if it's okay to, get embroiled in a conversation, or a red clothespin, which was I don't really want to talk to anyone. I'm good with just watching and listening and communicating in the ways with the people that I brought to the convention with me. And I really appreciated that, not just because it does kind of cut down on the ambiguity of, okay, do I go up and compliment this person on something or ask them if they want to join my game, but also because it kind of takes some of the mental pressure off of worrying about, how do I properly interact with people socially. So I thought that was something that was really good. The second tip that I have is to plan out your activities, like your meetups and your panels, ahead of time before you get to the convention. That way you make sure that you think about the pool of energy that you have to draw from before you get to the convention, and make sure that you are able to focus expending that energy on the things that you are the most excited about. This also helps with budgeting extra cushion time for things like bathroom breaks, stopping to get food or drink, walking from place to place. Some of the bigger conventions have panels and stuff spread out across multiple buildings, and you should always budget some extra time to get from place to place. This really helped me at PAX because it meant that I was really able to focus on making sure that I could go to the panels that were most interesting to me, and also just planning out my day and having that kind of a routine just really helps me cope with all of the sensory challenges that come with being at a con. The next tip that I have, and this might seem like it's pretty obvious, but trust me, it's very easy to let this one slide, is to make sure to take care of your very basic needs, namely food, water, and toilet. Especially in an environment where it's easy to get distracted by all of those shiny objects and interesting things to do, it is really important to make sure that those basic needs are taken care of. Also, bringing any medications that you need, whether that's something that you take for panic attacks in the event of, or any medications that you need to take regularly throughout the day. Just making sure that you have those basic bodily needs met is going to make dealing with the sensory input of a convention that much easier. It will give you a really good foundation from which to cope. Okay, the next tip that I have is actually one that requires a couple of props, and that is to pack some grounding items. Everybody calls these things something different. Some people call them stim toys, fidget toys, basically anything that kind of helps you in general cope with sensory input. So for me, at least, this means that I always bring a pair of noise-canceling headphones to conventions, especially to bigger ones, because like I said, just the constant loud noise of a bunch of people in a room together can really get to me. So I just pop these on over my head. They're very adjustable. I can still hear people talking to me. It helps if they're, angling towards my ears when I have these on. So I can still talk to people and communicate with people, but blocking out some of that really extra cacophony is really helpful. And these fold up pretty easily. I can just stick them in my backpack. I think I found these on Amazon for less than $10. You can get them even cheaper, but I really wanted the ones that had the little galaxy design. And then I also have a bag with little like stim toys inside of it. So I'll show you what I brought 2 packs with me. I like to rub things when I get stressed or overwhelmed. So I have this little like chainmail fella. Here, let me fix the zoom here for a second. So I have this little chainmail fella, which is like a little marble inside of chainmail. So you can like go like this and you can get that sort of tactile input from it. I also have another little thing that's like a little fidgety Mobius strip thing that I like to just ruffle around in my hand. That helps me just stay grounded and not get as freaked out by things. I have this wee little glittery pebble. It's like a little visual stim. I don't use this as much at conventions. It's just kind of in the bag. And then I also have some of my favorite, which is Crazy Erin's Thinking Putty. It is basically a type of putty that never dries out. It's very visually interesting to look at. You can see, you just pull it out of there, and usually if I'm like sitting at a panel or waiting in line, I'll take this out and start fiddling with it. And it just helps me to keep myself calm and kind of regulate everything else that's going on around me. So yeah, that is going to be different for everybody depending on your needs, but it is very important to pack some items that give you comfort. Another thing that I try to do is make sure that I have a pretty simple book or a game or something like that to just help me decompress. At PAX, I brought my 3DS with me because Animal Crossing is a game that really helps me just stay calm, stay grounded, prevent overload. So when I was waiting in line in a really loud room, I would just pull that out, start playing it, and it gave me something to take my mind off of the very overwhelming environment. Let's see. Oh yeah. My next tip is that if you are going to be attending convention in cosplay, to make sure that it is sensory friendly. Think about things like how itchy the fabric is, how hot or cold you're going to be wearing it, and whether you have the like emotional bandwidth to handle strangers coming up to you because they recognize the character that you're cosplaying as all day long. Because that's something that like I didn't really think about when I first started to get into cosplay, and I'm a pretty casual cosplayer. Like I tend not to wear things that require a whole lot of extra equipment. You know, I wear things that I can see well in, that I can move around well in for the most part. I am not, you know, going all out here with the outfits, but it's still an important consideration to make. So for instance, when I wore Jester to PAX, that's a cosplay that required some arm socks, some colored tights, and a bunch of body paint on my face and my hands and everything like that. And that was something I definitely had to think about. Like, was I going to be able to stay in that body paint without overheating? Because I get really cranky when like my temperature regulation is off and stuff like that. And I didn't think about how many people were going to recognize me and come up and be like, I love your cosplay, it's so great, can I get a photo with you, etc. Or just yell out, hey Jester, and like knowing that that was me, and like I was, you know, not prepared to be like, oh, hello, respond to everybody. So just, those are some things to think about. I think that cosplay can be a lot of fun. For me, it's like a really empowering creative outlet. I love dressing up as favorite characters and stuff like that, but just make sure that like you're not becoming your own worst enemy when you're planning out your cosplay, and adapt it, you know, have fun with it, get creative with it, think of ways to make it comfortable and bearable for you to wear. And the other thing is that remember that you don't have to stay in cosplay the entire time at the convention. The first time I ever cosplayed, I went as Ellie from The Last of Us, which was definitely a more low-key cosplay. But because I had never spent an entire day at a convention in cosplay before, I just made sure that I packed a change of clothes and some deodorant in case I was like, all right, that was fun. I'd like to get out of this costume now, and I just want to, you know, be in my comfortable clothes. So remember, you always have that as an option. And then second to last here is just remember that at a convention, now is the time to indulge your special interest. If you want to go meet the author or artist of your favorite comic book series, go get them. They are going to love talking with you about their work. It can be really difficult to approach people, especially like that you've never met before in this really overwhelming situation. But if you come up to them with maybe like a compliment on their work or a couple of, nice questions to ask to kind of get the ball rolling, you can have some really great conversations with people and just really share your passion. For me, this is where I really get to indulge my special interest in tabletop RPGs because I love them a lot and I basically could always be playing them and trying new ones. And I don't really get to do that as often as I might necessarily want in my everyday life. Like, I play RPGs pretty often, but how many times can I sit down and just play 4 different RPGs in one day? Usually it's only at a convention that I can find the time and the people that, are willing and able to make that kind of a commitment so that I can really geek out about those kind of things. And this is the place for you to get really excited about sharing that special interest. And the thing about special interests is that they go beyond just passionate hobbies because they help us recharge. They help us, recalibrate ourselves and get a humongous amount of personal joy out of exploring those interests. And so when you indulge your special interests at a convention, it's gonna make you feel really happy. And that's the whole point. And then my final tip is that don't forget that what you do after the con or in between days of the con also affects what type of time you will have at the con. So the best advice I can give for this is to leave when you're tired, make sure that you get lots of sleep, and don't forget to feed and hydrate yourself, because what you do to take care of your mental and physical well-being after the convention center doors close for the night is really going to impact how you handle the next day of con. I know it can be really tempting to do things like stay up late. If you drink, it can be tempting to go out and party with people and drink, but just try to keep in mind that you need to take care of all of yourself first. Be careful about pushing yourself too hard past your normal physical or emotional boundaries, and take that time to relax and recharge, because you're going to enjoy the whole weekend so much more if you are taking care of yourself. So that is all I have for the sensory-friendly edition of How to Survive a Convention. If any of you are going to conventions this fall, please let me know in the comments, because I am really friendly at cons and I really like to meet people from the internet in real life at them. So I would love to meet up with you if we're going to any of the same cons. You can come say hello. We can just chat for a little bit. And if you have never been to a convention, are you interested in going to one? If so, what kind of fandom or interest convention would you go to? Leave that down in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel and help me on my quest to 300. As always, thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Live long and prosper. Bye.